introduction. So I'll just get out of the way. I'm a pretty young guy, so I feel like I can relate to a lot of the issues that you're going through right now. So I wanted to share, a little bit about my career and some of the lessons that I've learned in politics and in technology, and certainly some of the lessons I've learned along the way. So I started off my career very, very young. I used to kind of be that political guy, that really annoying political guy in school, and I kind of got involved in the Democratic Party very, very early on. Around 2007, 2008, so I was 16 at the time. A couple of my buddies came up to me and they're like, "Hey, you should help on this campaign. There's this dude. His name is Barack Obama, and we really feel like he has a good shot at winning, right?" And so I had to Google him because he was like this no-name senator from Illinois, and I watched some of his debates and I was like, this is really great. I feel like I really believe in what he's saying, and so I took the leap and actually joined the campaign very early on, and actually went out to Iowa and started building out the campaign very, very early, because it was back in December of 2007, right before the Iowa caucuses. And one of the big things that the Obama campaign did really well, and there's a lot of books and movies and stuff written about it now, which is actually using data and analytics for the first time in a modern presidential campaign to actually think about how to micro-target voters, how to deploy a massive field operation and whatnot. And that's essentially what we're doing, right? So I went out to Iowa, kind of started building the campaign. Much to our surprise, he ended up winning the Iowa caucuses, and so we went out to Virginia and started building out the campaign there. So fast forward a couple of months, and we won the election. I was helping out, kind of doing some of the transition work. And I got in the political bug at that point. So I thought, well, this is really great. I mean, I feel like for the first time I can have a lot of leverage. There's a lot of opportunity to make a huge difference in society. And it was sort of like a very lazy way of thinking about it, right? Because the way I thought about it was very naive back then, is that if I wanted to make a lot of change, all I had to do was voice my opinion and raise my hand, right? And so I thought kind of the career in politics was something I wanted to pursue. So a couple of months later, there's a seat that opened up on the Board of Education in Maryland, and so I decided to throw my hat into the race. 17 at the time, I was this punk, ambitious kid, and again, much to my surprise, people actually voted for me, and then winning my district and serving in office for one term there, managing roughly about a $6 billion operating budget for 22,000 public teachers. And that was a really great experience, and that's kind of how I spent my junior and senior years in high school. Funny story, I got elected in 2009, so the first thing that they did was I walked into office, I got sworn in, and they handed me this massive budget book, right? And kind of where we were in 2009, financial recession and everything, we were trying to close essentially a $400 million budget deficit, and that was job one. And so obviously it was not very popular among a lot of different unions and associations, but one of the interesting things was that I would constantly be missing class because I'd be in these meetings, and so my teachers would always ask me, "Where have you been for the last couple of weeks?" Right? You didn't take your exams, you didn't do your homework, blah blah blah. And so I would say, "Hey, I've been negotiating your pension for the last 6 weeks, so I don't know if you want me to take this exam or whatever." They're like, "Yeah, just go ahead." So that was a very interesting opportunity, and for a long time I thought that I was going to go into politics, right? And I really thought about the kind of political atmosphere at the time. I was finishing up my term at the end of 2010. For those of you that remember, 6 years ago, 2010 was actually kind of this watershed moment for kind of bipartisan politics, because that's when things started getting very ugly, right? You had the Obamacare debate kind of go south. You had a lot of people kind of not even talking to each other across the aisle, and so I thought, oh wow, I don't know if this is the career for me. I want to make a large difference, but it feels like if I continue down this path, the end point of this path is me being in that guy's seat, not talking to the other guy on the other side of the aisle, not getting anything done. And so I went to college. Like he said, I was studying computer science and public policy at Princeton, and I was trying to kind of reflect on all these different ideas. One of the big things that I thought about was, okay, I have these two major interests in kind of technology and politics. What is an interesting problem that I could solve in this sector that a lot of organizations need and a lot of people need across the country? And so one of the things that I'd reflected on was the fact that in education, for instance, there's just a lot of regulations, there's a lot of laws, and schools are actually like the most heavily regulated things that you can think of, right? So you have the federal government coming out with massive amounts of testing and regulations. You have state governments changing curriculums all the time. You have local governments thinking about what types of staffing alterations they want to do and whatnot. So I thought, okay, well, I used to work in the government, and I didn't even know what was going on like in any other aspect of government, right? And so I thought, okay, well, if this is a problem in government, how is it getting solved right now in the private sector, right? So if you're a hospital, if you're a chemicals company or a pharmaceuticals company or whatnot, like how do you resolve all these different laws and regulations that are flying at you constantly? And the response that I got back was that, well, you pay these lawyers, no offense to lawyers, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to essentially interpret the law for you and get the information for you. And I thought this is a really dumb problem because in the 21st century, we shouldn't have to go through human intermediaries to get to information. And so my junior year, summer after my junior year, I essentially went off, grabbed two of my buddies from high school. We went to Wooten High School up here in Montgomery County, and we started a company. And the premise of this company was essentially to try and aggregate every single piece of legislation, every regulation, every case law from around the world and make it available on one singular platform and start thinking about how to leverage analytics and technology to come out with analytics around the directionality of legislation, the sentiment of regulators, the directionality of litigation, and really start to disrupt this very inefficient marketplace. So, we started the company in Silicon Valley. We bootstrapped like $20,000 from summer savings and stuff. And at the time, we couldn't afford an apartment in Silicon Valley, so we were living out of a Motel 6. And you can imagine this because there was like 2 beds. We had like 5 guys, and so 2 guys on each bed, and then 1 guy sleeping on the floor. And that was pretty much how we spent the first 4 months of our company, coding, calling customers, getting the messaging right and everything. And so about 4 months into starting this company, we started off, we had a prototype that was being used in a couple different general counsel offices, and we said, we need to actually go and institutionalize this. We have to get more engineers to actually build out some more functionality. We have to go build out some sales and marketing capacity. So we went off and started raising around, and being the kind of 21-year-old punk kids that we were, one of the first things we did was we cold emailed Mark Cuban. And again, much to our surprise, Mark actually responded within 45 minutes, and he was like, let's get a deal done. And so that's pretty much how our seed deal came together. We got Mark in, and then we had Jerry Yang, the founder of Yahoo, NEA, a very large institutional venture capital firm, and we brought all these people together to essentially raise our first $1.3 million and actually move the company back to Washington, where our customers were, and started building the company from there. And so that was about 3 years ago since we did that, and fast forward 3 years, our company's now raised over $40 million across 3 different rounds of venture capital. We have about a little over 200 employees across 3 different countries. And one of the great things that I've been able to witness over time is really thinking about the evolution of our company at every single stage, right? Because the company at 5 people is very different from a company that's at 20 people, which is very different from a company at 100 people, which is substantially different for a company at 100 people or 200 people now. One of the things that stays constantly the same is the culture that you build in the company and the types of people that you surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis. And that's, for me, what continues to drive a lot of the work that I do on a day-to-day basis. Tell a quick story about one of our nightmare fundraising issues. So when we were trying to raise our Series A, we were about 15, 16 employees at the time, and we were kind of really close. We were trying to close this deal. We had like 6 weeks left of payroll left in the bank account, and we were supposed to sign a deal on Friday. And as many entrepreneurs can empathize with, something went wrong, like horribly wrong along the process. And the day before we were supposed to sign this deal, we actually had to kind of cut off the deal. And so, after that happened, I gathered all of our employees in our kitchen, and I said to them, hey guys, we are trying to close this investment round. Didn't pan out. I'm still confident that we can go off and close our round, but we need to kind of stick it out for the next couple of weeks. The amazing thing is, and I'm still thankful to our employees that day, is that every single one of our employees at that time period actually took a pay cut for 2 months. so that we could extend the runway of the company and go off and close our investment round. And that culture of camaraderie, of people working together, supporting the family, is still one of our core tenets as a company today, and still drives the kind of nature of what we do on a day-to-day basis in our company. So one of the humbling lessons that you learn as an entrepreneur is that you never really do it yourself, right? It kind of feels like that. There's a lot of solitary moments, a lot of thinking about strategy and thinking about major decisions you have to make. But at the end of the day, it's the team that you surround yourself with and the culture that you build within that team that drives you forward. So the last thing I'll end with, and the last lesson that I've learned over time, is that for a lot of the young folks that are thinking about the next steps in your career, one of the things I'll say is that age should never be an impediment to what you want to accomplish in the future, right? I'm still only 24 years old, and I feel like I've had almost 40 years worth of experience so far. But and a lot of people constantly ask me, how is it like managing people who are twice your age or whatever the case is? And I always say that one of the great things about working in technology is that it's not really about the age, right? It's about the vision that you have, the competency that you have, your willingness to learn, your willingness to continuously put in hard work. And those are things that you can instill upon yourself today, right? Literally today, to start working towards your goals. So with that, I'm definitely grateful to be here and happy to certainly share any other stories that I have in the future. Thanks so much.